As you guys know, I'm doing this, as some of you know, I'm doing this differently. I'm just running this class. Normally I would be teaching you how to fight flow, how to fight as sword and board, things like that, like I did last year, how to fight single sword, just the basics of it. So instead I'm going to the basic to intermediate fighting against Florentine. So how we're going to be running this with, I got 4 different categories. We're going to be how to examine a Florentine fighter, so we'll have different people on the flow. I'm going to show you what they're doing and how to read what they're doing, what openings based on that, etc. We're going to go stabbing, because stabbing is a big part against flows. So I'll show you where to stab on a flow based on their positioning after we examine. How to defend against 2 angles, because they have 2 swords, so you have to be able to defend against both swords. And then strike zones. All right. How I'm running this is that you guys can decide whatever style you want to fight against them. That way you can bring your own weapons to class, and we can use those weapons accordingly. And when you go up, I'll tell you what you can do based with your style based on fighting against Florentine. So if it's a flow against flow, it'll be different things. If it's sword and board against flow, it'll be different things. But it'll be mainly fighting against Florentine. I'll tell you what you can do. Alright, the first part doesn't really matter what style you have, because it's examining the Florentine fighter. So just get a couple people that are used to playing flow. 3. First person, okay, that's fine. You can go with you first. Okay, so quickly I'll tell you what things we're going to look at before he sets up. Actually, I'm going to get another fight here against him in a minute. Doesn't matter if it's flow or not. The things we're going to look at are where they hold their swords on the handle. Are they mostly centered, spread out? Are the swords outwards? Are they high, low? What angles are the swords? And then the positioning. So what we're looking at is where on the sword they're holding it. Okay. Are they up this way? Are they out? Are the swords more in together? Are they more out? And then looking at where at their positioning, their foot positioning. So some people lean down, be leaning forward a lot, if they're leaning back a lot, depending on things like that. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So that's really how you hold your swords. If I need you, fight like that. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so like that. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. Whoa. Okay, so first thing we're looking at is his left hand here. We're going to look at positionings of the swords, okay? So first thing we look at is his hands. They're far back, so he's looking at striking at his furthest distance. All right, so now you know that if you have the same size sword, mine are a bit shorter, but that you need to stay out of his distance if you want to be safe. Okay, he's not looking to come up and block and get close range because he's not cocked up. That's the first thing you look at. So you see he's all the way back. He's not center, so he's not in between. He's looking at keeping his range. Of course, that switches easily over time, but at the instant, that's what we're looking at. Okay, so then we're looking at where his swords are. Now, his swords are both pretty low. This one mainly is low. So this is more of either a side sweep, he's going to go for your hip, or he's going to stab. It definitely looks like a stabbing motion that he wants to go into. For him to come and swing high, so when you're looking at fighting him, up here, most people, they won't keep a high block like this if they see this sword down here. Okay? So you're going to be seeing it like this. He's looking at getting me on the side here. A stab or a quick side swing, depending on what he wants to do. Okay? Right now, if he wants to come up and hit me up here with this sword, there's a lot of movement there. He has to bring it up and hit down, okay? So he's not going to be doing that. So right now you're looking at what he's thinking of doing. All right, so let's start, before you think of what you want to do, think about what they might be doing. So you see that's low, and this is still pretty low. So I'm not worried at all at this point if I'm using sword and board for him to come hit me in the shoulder right now, because he doesn't have anything there. He's got to come back to hit me, okay? But the position he's at, it's way too obvious for him to come out and hit the top over here. Okay, so what we're going to be looking at to get out of this is that mostly he had this up a little bit when he was doing it. So right now, because there's low here, you're not worried about this side, and you're not worried about getting hit up here, then you want to wheel over to the side and hit him, okay? So, go back to your position. Oh, I should give you a break for a second. Okay, go back into your fighting position. Okay. So the next thing we look at when you're examining a full fighter is their stance. He's fairly centered, so he's not ready to full out attack, but he's not really full out defend. So this is a good position. This is kind of his positions keep people guessing. If you see him leaning forward, then he's likely going to lunge forward. He's likely reaching. He's going to go maybe reach. Okay. We don't want to be seeing people reaching. It's something you don't want to be doing either. But we're not talking about what you're doing. We're talking about what the other person's doing. So he's on a middle ground right now, which is fine. It's good positioning. So he's going to keep you guessing that way. Here's she holding her swords down low. Okay, she's looking at range again. Okay, so we're probably not going to see anyone be cocking up on their swords, but just to let you know, that's probably one of the things you want to be looking at when you're examining another fighter, regardless of what they're doing. You'll see it more on people doing sword and board, or if someone on full is fighting a pole arm. That's a different story too. Okay. She's got most of her weight on her back leg, like we were talking about earlier. So she's ready not to attack, she's ready to back up and defend. So kind of backstep a bit. Alright, so that's probably her style. Just by looking at it on how her positioning is, she's probably more of a, I'm going to count, back up and counter, back up, counter. Okay, that's why you have to look at the legs, because you'll know just by how they stand what their plan is to, their plan of attack at the start. Okay. Yeah, you can shuffle forward too, but you have a lot of weight on your back. Like right now, you're not shuffling forward. Usually, you still have equal weight, and then well, it's a little bit different on ground like this, because you can shuffle forward with more weight on the back. But on grass and ground outside, you'll notice that you need to pick up your foot. You can't just shuffle. So we're in a gym, so it's a bit different there. Okay, go back to your position. Next position you're looking at too is her swords are at a good angle. They're not straight up, and they're not too far out. They're in both middle, which is good. It kind of keeps people from getting too close, but doesn't keep people too far and out of my safety range. So it's a good way to have it. That's how I usually tell my fighters to go. Going too much like this opens up all up here, so you want a nice angle. The thing is, hers are low, okay, which isn't a bad thing, but it opens up shots high up. Okay, so when you look at a fighter and has low swords, that means the higher shots are open. She's kind of worried down here about getting hit in the hips, maybe the ribs, things like that, so she wants to be blocking down here. That's where she's planning right now. I mean, it moves when you're attacking and stuff, but right now in her original position, she doesn't want someone coming in and attacking the hips or hitting the forearms. So right now, the best shots to be looking at are up here. Okay. Another thing I forgot to mention when we were looking at 80 is where the swords are. Her swords are very in. You see the swords. You have people that are out more. I fight more like this. Out more means more stabbing in the center. In more means more stabbing on the outside. So it's much more difficult for me to stab here because she has two swords that are really close together than in a situation where I'm going to come in and stab sideways this way. Because she's now on the in, so you can stab on the outside. Okay. So what we're looking at, so I'll go through the categories that we're looking at. Okay. So the categories we're looking at is where he holds the swords on the handles, because you're going to be looking at his distance. That's why you're looking at that. Then you're looking at the angle of the swords, how spread out they are, if they're thin inside, if they're outside. We're looking at how they're leaning, and then if there's a lot of lean on their legs or back foot, which one is weighted. And eventually we're going to go into stabbing, defending against them, and then strike zones. start over, we're looking at his feet first. So right now he's very well weighted. Earlier he was a little bit front weighted, which means that he was ready to attack. I think he was kind of ready to charge in, like block charge in. We are then looking at the swords. Jin, compared to the last Delia, holds the swords a bit out, so it opens up the center lane versus the outside lane. If I wanted to do, it's probably Iggy trying to get through that door. If I wanted to go on the outside, whether it's a stab or anything, he's already there and it shouldn't happen. So I'd have to go looking for an inside stab. And then his positioning on his swords, they're back, so he's still in, because he was using his other swords, I just swapped. His other swords he was looking to come in anyway. But if he was looking to get as close as he was with his other swords, he would have been holding them like this. Because that's pretty much the length of his other swords that he was using. So if you see someone holding like that, they're definitely looking at just getting in close to you and hammering you. Okay? Or they're looking at pushing a polearm, depending on who's facing them. And then, the angle of his swords. So we'll go back to this. So he's got the front angle. So he's kind of more of a halfway through offense, defense. He's not looking at stabbing right away because it's not down, but it's a halfway down to stab. So you're kind of guessing a little bit there. But if he wants to come up and do something high, he still has to come up flat to do it. It's pretty tough to push through. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a few tricks. We'll keep Jin there. You want to, actually I'll just use this one. Alright, so now I think we're going into stabbing. Alright, so now that we know how to examine the fighter, we're going to go into where the strike shots are, okay? So I'm fighting Jin, alright, and he's, like I said, he's on the inside there. He leaves the inside wide open. Of course, he's used to his bigger swords, so that's probably why. But for the better stabs, it's center, okay? So come in, stab center. When you're stabbing against flow, you want to kind of, actually against most situations you're stabbing, you want to kind of stab closer to the arm. Because if you're coming in, he's going to try to block it. So if I stab in, right? So if I stab to the arm, no, it's fine. If I go to stab at the arm, this is going to come faster than that. He's going to try to push it out this way. It'll go to your center mass. All right, so try to get stabs coming from the higher up, because it's harder for him to block using the top part of the sword than it is to use the bottom. If you're coming in low, that handle's got everything. He'll block everything. But if you're coming high, see where he doesn't use just as much strength to try to block in. Right? So if you're doing what I taught last year, how to stab properly, which is this way, and you stab high into his arm, he'll push it into the center, all right? And you won't be hitting him in the face, because if you go this way, he'll pop you in the face. So don't be stabbing in the face. Unless you've got a shield to stop you when you use your sword. Okay. So you got your. Okay. Now let's shrink your stance. All right. So now you're more of an inside stance this way. Okay. So then you see someone like this. It's a little bit harder for me to get in there because it's right there. You can trap it. All right. So then you can go for an outside stab. You can step in, outside stab. All right. You can step in, outside stab. Everything is open on the outside. It's not only for stabbing either. All right. You see someone that's more closed in. Their swords are close together. This opens this side up big time. If he has out again, it's not there. Okay. So it's not only stabs. I'm going to show you that it works on strikes too. Go back to regular stance. Okay. So I don't have the outside. So you can block it. But this inside here is all there. It's much harder for him to block. Or if I'm using this one here, it's all there. The inside is all open. Okay, so you always examine how they have their swords set up. Okay, so let's, anyone want to come against me real quick? You'll see the strike zones are here, okay? And that's about all I have, maybe a little bit here. Okay? So that's my strike zones if I don't move. So what we're concentrating on here is using footwork to open up. Not only footwork, there's different ways to open up strike zones. Okay? For one, moving people's weapons. Okay? Not something I usually teach people. And you can't move someone's weapon by hitting it here. Alright? You can move it here, and shot opens up. Okay. So, if you're fighting flow against another flow, you can do this one sword too. Alright? You can move it and strike. Alright, when you do this to someone, have a fairly good grip. See, it doesn't matter how. Hold it really tight. Even really tight. Things open up, okay? Especially if I'm swinging with this one here, if we're cross-leg, all right? But you'd want to be stepping into that, especially with 32 inches versus 34, okay? So, this is a way to open up shots. See that? No problem. On someone on Jin that has shorter swords, that won't work because it's the same as getting close to here. Now if I do this, yeah, or if he's cocking up and he's defending, right? But if he's this too, if I try doing it here, I'll hold your sword regularly. See? There versus there. See what opens up? He's holding it really tight now. He's expecting me to do it. There's a big difference hitting there than hitting right. It's tough. Okay? So you can open up doing that.
Like, if someone's much stronger than you, though, that's probably not applicable, okay?
Come here. Hit my sword. I'm holding it really tight. Yeah. Oh yeah. See? Hold it as tight as you can. I won't even hit hard. So it opens up. I'm not hitting hard. Okay. And I don't hold my swords that tight. Most people will not hold their swords that tight when they're facing off because it's not where, especially when you get to the higher end fighters, it takes a lot of energy to be holding your sword tight all the time. So usually you're loose, and it only tightens up at the last minute when you strike. Okay. So you'll notice someone, it's not like loose where I'm going to let it go, but usually, I don't know, it's like, I forget who taught that. It's like holding a
peach. It's something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I wish I knew the analogy.
It's like a puppy. You don't want to kill it.
I saw a Warlord video on it once. I forget what he said. It's like holding a feather. They call it a feather test or something. So, I don't know. Anyway, you can easily knock the sword and come in. Okay, you guys see that? That opens up. Especially if you're using sword and board. Can you pass me the board? All right. Because I can't strike on this side either. Anyway, I'm cross-leg. He hasn't hand matched me yet. And if he doesn't plan on it, everything opens up right there. Okay, if he hand matches me, right, it's more of an arm. When you're doing it cross-leg, you're going to be hitting here. They call it a beat hit. I think Brendan calls it a beat hit. Anyway, this way it's more of an arm. It's a fairly safe shot too because for him to come back, it's tough. So yeah, I'm going to get him to try to come back from the shot, okay? Right? Get back to me now. So it is hard for him to get back, but if you're used to it, and that's him expecting you. Most people won't be expecting it right away.
I still got my shoulder.
Okay? So, and then cross leg, go the other way. And this is a lot easier for a sword and board fighter because they have this to block now. So it works. I'll be teaching this again against sword and board because it works well against anyone's sword and board that sticks out a bit further than their board. Okay, so that's one way of opening up. Now, the other way is go back to your fighting stance. Okay, footwork. Okay, as I told you, this is the only area he's showing right now. There's a little bit on the forearms, but he can block that. A little bit on the hips. All right, so to open up, you can either come in at different angles. The whole arm opens up. Okay, if I come in. Okay, just just to see what opens up here. All right. So if you go to someone that's flow and you go front this way, and just get him to wait and look. Realize, okay, this is maybe the strike zone right here. There's not too much. He's holding it tight now, so there's that outside. If I move a little bit this way, all of a sudden, that little strike zone becomes about this thick. Okay, so all of a sudden I have this much versus this much. So this much is if you move, and it was this much if I was in front of him. So that just shows you how much even a small step to the side can open up, how much it opens up. Small step to the wrong side kind of splits the strike zone in the middle. Now I have a little bit here and a little bit on this side. So it all depends. It opens up strike zones on different sides, and that's what you're looking for. A step in will just get you closer. When you're striking, you should always be taking a quick step in, unless you're baiting out. Okay, so that's another way. If you're looking at different ways you can step sideways. What I was teaching Iggy before was shots to right here. When you're hand matched, you can step kind of a 45-degree angle, and that shot opens up right there. They'll come in right there. Okay. Be careful when you're striking. If you're not accurate, don't do it yet because you'll hit people in the head a lot. Practice, practice, practice. Okay. And now another way is more against an active fighter. Okay? So you get someone that likes to counter a lot. Most people like countering. So a shot to this, usually they'll block and they'll want to counter. Right? Okay? And that's kind of that. I'm reaching a little bit here. So what we do for people that like to do that and you want to open up is a shot here. They want to counter, and you can recounter. Because I'm shooting just around the wrist. If they don't block it properly, they'll get hit in the wrist. I'm not shooting to hit anyone. I'm shooting for him to counter. Okay? That's all it is. Right? It's a fake out for him to come out and counter, and I can counter back again. Okay? You can do this in different ways. You can do it this way. If you don't want to come up and do it, you can come in, or let's cross legs. Same this way too. If he wants to counter, I can come in. Make sure on your second strike, if he didn't step in to try to kill you, that you're going to step in probably to kill him. Okay? It also works. Okay, we'll try to actually counter. Right, so but if I do this wrong and I aim for his elbow like I would, his forearm like I normally would, there's the counter. He actually hit me. Okay. So then I aim for his hand area. He countered, opened up. All right, so that's ways to open up strike zones on flow. Actually, that works on a lot of other styles, but we're not talking about that now. Other ways is to baits and stuff like that you can open up. Once people start to realize how to read you and they know what to swing at, you can open up. So, for example, if I go like this against a flow fighter, he's going to want to hit my arm. Right? So that's what we call a bait. Yeah, that's a very simple bait. Most people won't fall for that when you get higher end. But for basic intermediate, that's a simple bait. You can drop your shield a bit. If they're, say, cross-leg, they're going to want to go for a shove here. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter how you counter. But just to show you what they can go for. So the big thing against fighting flow is the reason people fight flow is because you have more attack. So you know that someone fighting flow is likely to be more on the offense than they are on the defense. Okay, so you have to be able to block at two angles. Of course, with this sort of board, it's easier. Let's give you a glove just in case. Here, or do you have gloves? Okay, let's put mine on, I guess. Okay. So you basically have to be able to block both sides properly. All right. So I'm fighting Yaya here. Okay. So she has to worry about this side. And she doesn't worry about it too much because there's a shield there. All right? So she's not worrying about me striking here too much. Even if I come in, it's all there. So she's already got this side covered. Now there's this side that you got to worry about. So if you're a sword and board fighter fighting flow, likely they're going to be going for these shots more than anything. Okay? So you want to be more patient against a flow fighter because if they do take that shot, then it opens up. If you can block that properly, everything opens up. Okay? So we're going to strike here, right? She can go there. Alright, so we're going to strike here, and then she got to be able to cover both ends, okay? So we never want to be blocking with the same thing that you're blocking the one shot with the other one. Unless you're a bullfighter, because you only have one weapon. But, so what a sword and board fighter wants to concentrate is being able to block this left side with her sword and not her shield. Because as soon as she decides to block it with her shield, this side opens up. So, block, block. Okay, so it's good practice against, if you want to get better against flow fighters, is to be able to take that shot, block that one. And you can have them just practice, take shots on the sides. So, yeah, you can definitely counter if you want. I'm just showing that. Muscle memory. But, so to practice, even if you're flow, you do the same thing, practice both sides. Because a flow fighter should not be swinging both on the same side, or else they're just going to be killing themselves. If I'm going to be doing this, everything is open on this side. So, is that difficult? Okay. That's another thing too. Okay. To block low on a hip shot, you want to bring your sword down. Basically, yeah, exactly. So I can't shoot that low. It doesn't have to technically be touching the air, but pretty low. Because any little bit there gets a bit through. It's tough. Someone has to be really good to get through. But if you have your sword planted on your, they can't hit you low there anymore. They can try to go around, but then you can just cock this way to block it, okay? So that kind of block will block an outside, but if you want to block low there. So if you want to practice blocking from two different angles, that's how blocking as a flow fighter. To the point where if you're comfortable being constantly blocking their shots, you can then punch, block, counter. There you go. See, just take a look at who's they're charging, okay? Again, they're going to be on the inside, on the out. Most people are going to come against a pole arm are not going to stay out like this. A pole arm is made for poking, all right? Probably the thing you should be most afraid of as a flow fighter, I guess. I don't know. Because he's got a lot of range and you have to be faster than him forward stepping than he is back stepping. Which is most of the time. Most people are faster at running forward than running backwards. Alright. So the first thing he's going to be looking at is my positioning. Okay? So this should not be the positioning that I'm looking at for fighting flow. I may start it off that way just to get him a little bit off and then slide up. He'll likely see me do this. All of a sudden, this means I'm ready to get in close. Everyone knows that when you're either using it to defend, strictly defend, or getting close. This is what pulling your swords up. Okay. So then he's looking at, and he's going to be looking at my feet. This is a big thing when a full arm wants to look at a flow fighter and what they're going to be doing. Okay. Look at the weight. Right now I'm even. I'm not ready to do anything. Okay? If I go on the back, if my weight goes on the back, I'm likely going to be waiting for him to strike. And then step this way. Alright? This is what it tells me. Because I'm already in this position. If I go back, that means I'm going to be lifting this leg up. And if he's going to stab me, I'm not going to be going this way. This is stupid. Because he's just going to hit me in the back. Okay? So if he's looking at where my weight is, weight's on the back, I'm looking at rushing him this way to get him in. If my weight's on the front, and I go for it, I'm going to be going this way. Okay? So weight's on the front, stab, I'm going this way because I need to move this leg. And I'm not going to be doing this. Never cross your legs, by the way, guys. When you're fighting, don't cross your legs. Because you'll get into situations like this and hurt yourself. So, the best way for a pole-arm fighter to look at which way a flow fighter is going to be going is to look at the weight on his feet. Right, he knows he's got the range. He knows he's got the poking. There's no way that I'm going to be hitting him at this range. He knows that I have to rush him. There's no way about it that I can't do anything without rushing him. So he has to realize what's open, okay? So he's also going to, that's the first thing that he should be looking at. Because that's what I have to do to kill him. I'm already thinking which way I'm going to go, which way I feel more comfortable based on his right-handedness, left-handedness, depending, okay? Yeah. So you'll notice if someone's like this, chances are my weight's going to be on the back because I want to rush this way. I'm more comfortable rushing that way than this way. Even though this is more effective. But I have a hard time against right-handed fighters. You're lefty right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a hard time against right-handed fighters.
Okay.
All right, so that's the first thing he looks at. The next thing he looks at is whether my swords are wide or in, just like I was mentioning before, all right? So if they're wide, he's going to be looking at poking me. There's no doubt he wants to poke me right down the center, okay? Yeah, exactly. He wants to poke me. Because even if I move, all right, he can still. And the same when I talked about stabbing, you want to be stabbing towards the arm of the way they're going to be moving. So once you notice which way they're moving, you want to be stabbing this arm.
Okay.
Because as soon as you stab, I just moved into your stab. Okay? Now, if I have, I'll likely be holding my swords closer to you because I don't want to get stabbed. And this is when your outside swings are going to happen more. Okay? As soon as that happens, you should be, the pole-arm fighter should be looking at no longer stabbing. Because for me to slide a stab when I'm in this way, it's no problem. He can hardly stab right through this. He's going to have to be pretty damn strong to get through most stabs that are held in this much. Like even, I'm not even going to do this, right?
Yeah. Nope. That's all I want to do.
Some people will cross their swords just for that extra thing. That just gives more attack over here, okay? So as a pole fighter, you need to recognize that. You need to recognize what you're looking at. So if he's right in close, he's stopping your pokes. He knows that you're going for a poke and not a swing. So he's going to be going for a swing to the arm. Right there, here, that'd be your best way. Because if you go
this way,
yeah, it's tough.
yeah.
Okay. So then it also depends too. If I'm like this, that opens up even more. All right. But I'm this way right now. I'm hand matching, so that shot's a bit harder because I'm going to go this way, whether you swing or not. All right. So you may want to try to swing for a hit because you know I'm going to be rushing.
Right.
All right. So I'm going to be trying to block that regardless. But you don't want to be going for stabs. You see someone that's like this, just don't stab them. Swipe their leg, do whatever. Swipe it, doesn't matter. If you're swiping, not stabbing. If you see someone like this, and you're like, oh crap, oh yeah, that. We did. So.
I got it. Good.
Okay, so yeah, first thing you look at, legs. All right. Well, obviously you look at the handles first. If they're like this, then they're not ready to rush you, and they might still try to rush this way. It opens up your shots. All right. A lot of swipe sideways. The same thing if they go like this. And if they're like this, chances are you can still hit up here. You'll power right through a sword like this. Because look at the power on it. Like try hitting from there. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Now do it again. You didn't.
Okay.
Whereas I can't block that. No. Hurting my wrist. So, as you guys see, I don't know, not many of us play pole, but I wanted to show that we do have someone a pole fighter and things to look at when you're fighting with pole. The weight on the legs, how they're holding their swords, inside or out. That's your three big things.
Excellent.